morning, everyone. Welcome to Friday. It's day 6 of reading from Gwyneth Ever After. We are on chapter 6, coincidentally enough. I hope everybody's doing well. We have another rather gray, gloomy, somewhat rainy day here. I enjoyed 2 days of sunshine. It was absolutely gorgeous. And now we're back to, I'm going to have to dress up to take the dog out. And then, oh, God. Let me tell you, when we get back in and I have to wipe him down because he's picked up all the grit and the sand and the water from the puddles, 125 pounds of ticklish feet and don't touch me and stop doing that. It's interesting. So anyways, pity me, really pity me. You'll have to forgive me. You're going to be seeing rather a lot of the book cover today. I trimmed my apple tree yesterday, and it required a lot of up over my shoulders work with really long handled. I've got this pruner thing, and I was fine. That was fine. Didn't hurt. Came in, moved some furniture around in my office. Didn't hurt. Got up this morning. I was fine. Reached for my toothbrush in the medicine chest in the bathroom and threw something out in my bag. So who knows? Getting old, it's not for the weak of heart. So anyway, we're going to dive in and read from chapter 6. And forgive me if you keep seeing the book pop up. I will have to move it up and down a little bit today because I can't bend my neck. But anyway, here we go. Chapter 6, Gwyneth Ever After. Gareth raised his head and cracked one eye open to peer at the clock. He turned a disbelieving gaze on his cousin, who was seated in the armchair beside the bed, grinning and using a booted foot to prod him in the ribs. "Morning," said Sean cheerfully. Remaining on his stomach, Gareth buried his face in the pillow and growled, "It's 6 a.m. "I know. I have court this morning, so they let me off early." "I don't care if you're flying to Mars. It's still 6 a.m., and you'd better have one hell of a reason for waking me at this hour." "I'll be gone before you roll out of bed. I wanted to know how your date went." "You've got to be kidding." "Nope. Quite serious, actually." "So, how was it?" "Goodbye, Sean." Sean grunted. "I figured as much when I found you here." Gareth puzzled over the statement for a second, then decided sleep had made his brain fuzzy. He raised his head again, along with one eyebrow. "What?" "Well, if it had been any good, you'd have been at her place." This time Gareth let out a pained groan as his head dropped. He rolled onto his back, away from Sean's booted toe, and covered his eyes with his arm. "She has 3 kids, Sean. It could have been the most earth-shattering date in the world, and I still wouldn't have stayed at her place." "It may well have been the most earth-shattering date in the world, but that was beside the point." Silence met his response. Sean cleared his throat. "How many kids?" "3. Just how old is this Gwen, anyways?" "Gwyn," Gareth corrected. "And she's 35. Not that it's any of your business." More silence. Longer this time. Gareth pictured his eternal bachelor-type cousin digesting his words and hid a wry smile. Maybe now he'd shut up and go away. No such luck. Sean's boot gave him another, even less gentle prod in the rib cage. "You're dating a 35-year-old woman with 3 kids? Are you out of your mind?" "Not that I'm aware of. No." "You've never dated anyone over the age of 30 in your life?" "Hell, you're famous enough that you'll probably never have to." Gareth sighed. "Is that supposed to be some kind of compliment?" Sean ignored him. "Do you have any idea of the complications involved with someone like that?" "Someone like what?" Gareth peered at his cousin from under his forearm. "Middle-aged, kids, desperate," Sean broke off, waving his hands in the air. "You know." "She's 7 years younger than I am and 2 years younger than you. I'm pretty sure she still has a little life left in her," Gareth retorted, annoyance creeping into his voice. A memory sidled into his mind of Gwyn's slender form in the body-hugging red dress she'd worn the night before. "And trust me, she's a long way from needing to feel desperate." Sean gaped at him. "You like her?" "Of course I like her. I wouldn't have taken her out for dinner if I didn't like her." "No, I mean you like her." enough to get involved with her. I'm not getting involved with anyone, Gareth disagreed. I have enough on my plate right now. You sure as hell do. Sean dropped his foot from the bed and stood. And you'd be doing yourself a significant favor by remembering that. Unbuttoning his uniform shirt, he strolled toward the open door, pausing in the opening to look back. So, are you going to see her again? I don't know. Maybe. Sean shook his head. You really are out of your mind, he said. Oh, and before I forget, someone named Angela left a message last night, too. Way to collect 'em, cuz. Gareth opened his mouth to correct his cousin, but Sean had already disappeared. Chasing after him to tell him Angela was nothing more than his agent seemed like way too much effort, especially when he could employ his energy so much more pleasantly on other thoughts. He crossed his arms under his head and smiled at the ceiling. Thoughts of certain nice single mothers, for instance. What do you mean you can't tell me until my birthday? Sandy followed Gwyn into the kitchen, her voice pitched higher than normal in confusion. That's 2 weeks away! And what the heck does my birthday have to do with your mystery date, anyway? Gwyn sighed. Give it up, Sandy. I'm not telling you. Sandy crossed her arms, bright blue eyes snapping beneath her shocking red-dyed bangs. Let me get this straight. I called last night to chat. Kirsten tells me you're out with a man, dissolves into giggles and refuses to tell me another thing. I drive myself crazy with curiosity all blessed night, and now you won't tell me anything either? So Kirsten had refused to divulge any information, had she? That was a good sign. Gwyn removed the last tray of peanut butter cookies from the oven and switched off the temperature setting. In a nutshell, yes. God damn it, Gwyneth. Language masters. Fine. Then gosh darn it, Gwyn. Gwyn giggled. Sandy was the only person in the world who could reduce her to giggles. But Gwyn still wasn't about to ruin her friend's birthday surprise by admitting Gareth's identity, which would inevitably lead to an explanation of how she'd met him. She set the cookie tray on a wire rack and threw the blue plaid oven mitt at her friend. Would you please give it a rest? Don't you have to go back to work soon? Not for another half hour, said her friend, who had dropped by unannounced during her lunch break. And I won't give it a rest, because I'm hoping if I bug you long enough, you'll tell me. If you bug me long enough, Gwyn corrected, I'll throw you out of my house, with no cookies. The phone on the counter by the fridge rang. Gwyn reached for it, turning back in time to smack Sandy's fingers as her friend reached for the cookie tray. Go away! Hello? Is that me or one of your kids you'd like to go away? Gareth's deep voice asked in her ear. Gwyn reached for the counter to steady herself. It's you. She realized what she'd said and added hastily, I didn't mean it's you I'd like to go away. I meant... I know what you meant, he replied with a rumble of amusement. Did I call it a bad time? No, not at all. I was just trying to fend off a cookie thief. My friend Sandy is over. Said thief raised an eyebrow. Oh, sorry. We're going to pause because we've got a gizmo that's going to come and have a little visit. And he's going to pass on through. Sorry about that. I did warn you guys. No. I rearranged furniture and put the filing cabinet beside my desk. And now it's become a perch, so... give me a second. I have to find this. Okay. Said thief raised an eyebrow, leaned on the center island with chin in hand, and listened without shame. Gwyn glared and turned her back on her. Did you manage to take a nap this morning? Gareth asked. No, I ended up meeting with a client instead. But I'm fine. I wasn't nearly as tired as I thought I'd be. Actually, she suspected she'd been functioning on pure adrenaline all day, because after Gareth had said goodnight to her on the front porch, in a moment tense with unexplored potential, she'd barely slept at all. But she didn't see the need to admit so. What about you? Were you tired? Only because Sean woke me up when he got in at 6 from work. He wanted to hear about my date. She tried not to ask, but her voice seemed beyond her control. What did you tell him? That it was none of his business. Funny, I was just telling Sandy pretty much the same thing. You know what would drive them really nuts, don't you? What? A second date. Now her voice simply disappeared. After a moment, Gareth asked, "Are you still there?" "I'm here," she croaked. "I want to see you again, Gwyn." How did he do that? How did his voice reach through the phone line to make her feel as though he'd just picked up where he'd left off on her porch last night, when his lips had brushed the back of her hand in a gesture of gallantry she had never experienced, as though her world had gone fuzzy for a moment, then come back into a focus in a place she'd never been before? "I know it's a school night," Gareth continued, "and that you probably have work to do, but—" She interrupted before her nerve failed, and before her better sense kicked in. "You're welcome to join us for dinner if you'd like." Silence met her invitation. She swallowed hard and put a hand to her hot face. Dear Lord, what was she thinking? You didn't invite a man like Gareth Connor over to share a tossed-together weekday dinner with 3 kids and their frazzled, hopelessly gauche— "I'd love to." He would? Innate honesty prompted her to warn, "It's nothing fancy." "Will you have any cookies left?" She smiled. "I'll try to keep some away from Sandy." "What time?" "We eat early, 5 o'clock." "Can I bring anything? Dessert?" "If you'd like." "I'll see you at 5." Gwyn stared at the receiver in her hand for a long moment after it went dead. Then she replaced it in its cradle and turned to Sandy. Her friend stared at her across the kitchen island, slack-jawed. "Excuse me, but did I just hear you right?" Sandy squeaked. "Did you just invite a man into your home for dinner with you and the kids? You, Gwyneth Jacobs, with the ironclad rule about never involving your children with your dates? What ridiculously few you've had!" Gwyn ignored the jab. "The kids like him." "They've already met him?" Sandy's mouth flapped a few times before she pulled herself together. "Gwyn, in the last 4 years I can count on no hands the number of times you've introduced your kid to a new man in your life. Hell, I can count on no hands the number of times you've introduced them to any man in your life who isn't permanently attached to another woman. This is different." "I can see that." Gwyn caught back the rest of Gareth's name, recovered from her near slip, and said, "He's only in Canada for a couple of weeks. It's not like anything will happen." Both of Sandy's eyebrows shot up, disappearing under her bangs. "I have news for you, my friend. If you've let him cross your threshold, something already has." So we're going to wind it up there for today. That's the end of chapter 6. I am so glad that you guys are joining me. I love hanging out with you in the morning, and you make my day, the start to my day, so much more pleasant. Dina Marie, giggling with my story. Yeah, I've been told that I have a very, very expressive face, and I got to tell you, one of the most disorienting things about doing this is I can see myself in my camera because I've got it pointed towards me, and your people are right. I have a very expressive face, so hence the entertainment, I suppose. Anyway, drop me a comment and let me know what you're up to for the rest of the day. I think with the literal pain in my neck that's going on right now, I'm not going to be doing all the things that I thought I was going to do. I was going to do the vacuuming that I didn't do the other day because, the weekend's coming up and got to have the house ready for all the people that's not going to drop by this weekend. But I guess I can look at the hairballs for a little bit longer. They're about the size of tumbleweeds right now. It's a little scary. You can actually pick them up and drop them in the garbage when you find them. I probably shouldn't be admitting that publicly, but meh, you guys know me. You know I have a lot of animals. Anyway, I hope that you have a really, really wonderful day. Take care of yourselves. Stay home if you can, please. Wash your hands. Wash, wash, wash. Oh, God, my hands are getting dry from washing. But yeah, I will see you here again tomorrow morning. Thank you so much for joining me. You really do brighten my day. So I will see you tomorrow. Bye.